She had a net worth of $42 million, a driver waiting 3 miles down a road that no longer existed under the snow, and absolutely no idea how to start a fire. Within the hour, she'd be knocking on the door of a cabin owned by a college kid who'd never seen a bank balance with more than 4 digits in it. Nobody who heard what happened next between sunset and sunrise believed a word of it, and by the end of this story, you might not either. Vivian Cole had built one of the most successful analytics companies in America. For years, she had always been surrounded by assistants, chauffeurs, and people ready to solve every problem. Everything changed one winter evening while driving along Route 9 outside Millbrook, Vermont. A powerful snowstorm rolled across the mountains without warning. After a difficult board meeting, Vivian had chosen to drive alone, wanting nothing but silence for the long trip home. Suddenly, her rental SUV began losing power. The dashboard lights flickered once before the engine completely died. She reached for her phone, hoping to call for help. One signal bar disappeared, leaving her with no connection at all. The temperature continued dropping, and the snowstorm became stronger every minute. Sitting inside the dead vehicle was no longer safe. With no other choice, Vivian stepped into the freezing night and began walking through the deep snow, hoping someone lived nearby. The expensive winter gear she trusted offered little protection against the brutal wind. Every step became harder than the last. Nearly 40 minutes later, she finally spotted a small wooden cabin tucked between tall pine trees. Smoke rose gently from its chimney. Warm golden light glowed through one small window. Vivian had never felt so relieved to see another human home. Inside the cabin, 22-year-old Eli Marsh was reading beside a wood stove. The engineering student was spending winter break in the cabin his grandfather had built decades earlier. The sudden knock on the door surprised him. Out here, visitors almost never arrived, especially during a blizzard. He hesitated for only a moment before opening the door. Standing outside was a woman nearly frozen by the storm. Vivian explained that her car had broken down and asked if she could simply use a phone or wait until morning. Instead of asking questions, Eli stepped aside immediately and told her to come inside before the cold became even more dangerous. After sitting beside the fire for nearly 20 minutes, feelings slowly returned to Vivian's hands, and her shaking finally began to stop. Embarrassed, she admitted she had absolutely no idea how to build or even maintain a real fire. She had always relied on someone else. Eli laughed kindly. He couldn't believe someone had gone through life without ever making a fire with their own hands. Vivian smiled and admitted she had paid for countless fireplaces but had never once needed to understand how they actually worked. Looking around the small cabin, Vivian noticed its simple beauty. Every piece of furniture carried history, every corner felt warm, and for the first time in a long while, she felt completely at peace. Eli proudly explained that his grandfather had built the cabin with his own hands many years ago. It wasn't luxurious, but it had always been home. Vivian learned that Eli was a senior studying mechanical engineering. He worked 2 different jobs just to afford the education his scholarships couldn't cover. Eli quietly observed that Vivian clearly came from a very different world. Her belongings alone revealed a life far beyond anything he had ever known. Instead of feeling offended, Vivian appreciated his honesty. For once, someone saw her wealth without treating her differently. As the blizzard worsened, the roads officially closed. It became obvious that Vivian would have to spend the entire night in the cabin. Eli insisted she take the only bedroom while he slept on the couch. No matter how much she protested, he refused to let her sleep anywhere else. Neither of them slept very much. The storm outside made time feel strangely suspended, and their conversation continued late into the night. Vivian found herself sharing things she had never told anyone outside her closest circle. She spoke about the company she had built and how success often left her feeling unexpectedly lonely. She admitted that after her father's death, growing the business had become her entire life. Somewhere along the way, genuine relationships had become difficult to recognize. Eli listened without judgment. Then he shared stories about his own family, their financial struggles, and his dream of becoming the first college graduate in the family. Despite growing up with very little, Eli never spoke with bitterness. He simply accepted hardship as another challenge that had to be overcome. Vivian admired his attitude. She realized he wasn't driven by money but by determination and quiet resilience. When she asked how he stayed so positive through difficult times, Eli smiled and answered with simple honesty. Feeling sorry for yourself never solves anything, he said. Sorry doesn't split logs. Vivian laughed harder than she had in years. It was the kind of genuine laughter that no business success had ever managed to buy. The next morning, the storm had completely passed. Bright sunlight reflected across the untouched snow as a tow truck finally reached the cabin. Before leaving, Vivian thanked Eli for helping a complete stranger without expecting anything in return. She offered to pay the rest of his college tuition as a way of giving back. Eli politely refused to accept charity. He explained that he had opened his door because it was the right thing to do, not because he expected a reward. Vivian assured him she wasn't trying to buy his kindness. She simply wanted to invest in someone who reminded her of the values her own father had lived by. She handed him her business card and asked him to think about it. After they said goodbye, both walked away changed by one unforgettable night. Vivian rediscovered the value of genuine kindness, while Eli proved that true character isn't measured by wealth. Sometimes, one unexpected snowstorm is all it takes to change two lives forever.